In this video, I'll be going over how you can use Plane.so in order to effectively manage and maintain your projects. So let's say you've gone through the first steps of just setting up your account. So obviously if you go to say get started, um, you're brought to an option, I've already done it, where you can sign up using say some of your emails or maybe like your Google account, etc. So what you should have done hopefully is you signed up using your college email and you've created what's called a workspace, which is an area that you can work in, and you might be presented with something like this. So you have like these tabs open in this over here. So you have like workspaces, different projects, and then the projects tabs. You can see all the projects that are visible here. So right now I have a test project, and you can see that I have different tabs. I have like an overview, I have work items, and I have pages. So if it's your first time creating a Plane account, usually you will get like a default project that you can go in and edit and change and learn from. So I do recommend to have a look at the template one that is automatically created when you first create a Plane account. But if you want to create a clean project with nothing in it whatsoever, what you can do is you can go to like say workspaces here to projects, and you can add a project and say like say I call it say test 2 for instance, and create it there. And in a second you'll see I have like a new project enabled. Now if you are creating a entirely new project, what I would recommend to do is you want to enable a couple of options. You want to enable things called cycles, modules, and I think those are your main ones it'll need. And then you can open project and you'll see it comes here. Now you can also add a project here as well. So under projects, you can click create project. And then what you can do as well is say, for example, if you don't have some of these options here, like say work item cycles or modules, like say, for example, my original test one here, I've only got these three options. What I can do is on the little three dots here, I can go to settings, and you can see features are here. So I can go to cycles and I can enable these, and also modules as well. I'm going to explain what these are in a second, but the main thing is you want to make sure that you have these here. So I'm just going to collapse this so we can just focus on test one. So with Plane and other software such as like say Jira or Trello, it's really useful to track and maintain your projects. You're going to be working in teams, you're going to be working in groups, so you need to know what tasks and goals that you're working towards. And this piece of software is going to be really useful for you to keep a track of yourself. It's also good professional practice as well. So if you maintain your Plane account and you populate it correctly and efficiently, then you will get those higher grades as well. So let's go through some of these options here and explain what each of them are. So here we are in work items. So essentially what work items is, and you can see it has like a brief description here. These are basically all of the tasks that you are doing on the day-to-day basis for your project. So let's just say right now I'm going to create my first work item. So let's just say my task that I'm doing is going to be called, let's just say level design uh, paper version tutorial. So right here is basically the summary of the task. So basically you want to have a quick brief summary that anyone can read and understand, right, I know what Haroon is working on, or I know what John is working on just based on the title alone. So right now I've just put like say level design, like a paper version of the tutorial level. Now, if you need to add more details to it, so for example, if you are creating a task for another teammate, if the summary isn't enough for them to understand what they need to do, you can add more details here. So you can add a description. So I could say here, for instance, to create a paper top-down view of the tutorial level with annotations to explain, I can spell what is going on. So then, I've added that description there, so it helps make it a little bit more easier for that person to know what's going on. So then we have our options here. So we have these different options to be like, okay, is this task in progress? Is it to do? Is it done, or has it been cancelled? This basically tracks the progression of the task itself. So right now I'm going to keep it on backlog because I'm not really working at the moment. So it can just stay there. Backlog basically means that there's like a large list of tasks that currently aren't assigned to a milestone and are just there to be pick and choose for future milestones or future timelines, for instance. Obviously, if it's to do, it's most likely in that milestone that you're currently planning or you're currently working in, but it hasn't been started yet. In progress means that obviously that the task is in progress, someone's working on it. If it's done, it means, yep, it's finished, it's completed. If it's cancelled, it could be a case of like, right, we were going to do this at one point, but now it's finished, we're not doing it, and it's cancelled. So I'm going to keep it a backlog for now. You can also set the priorities as well, so that way you can decide how important this task is. So is this something urgent that needs to be done right away? Usually like an urgent task is something that is either blocking someone or it needs to be done absolutely urgently in order to progress the project. If it's not done, then it's halting the progression of your project. High means that this is a very important task that needs to be completed, so you want to put your priorities towards that. Obviously, it's not as high as urgent, which means like, all hands on deck, we need to get this done right now. Medium means that it's still an important task, but it's not quite there just yet. It means that, okay, we still need to do this. It's important, but not as important as a high priority task. We can do this first and then do the second. Then a low priority task is something that is like, it's quite simple, it's easy. If and in some cases, you might just want to cut it entirely. So you can kind of decide what's more important. So by knowing the priorities of your tasks, you know what to work on and what's more important. So for instance, if this was like a art task and you had a task to create a wall or to create some paper cups, you know that the walls are going to be more important. They're a high priority because you need those to create your environment. Whereas like a small little cup is a low priority because it's there just for like set dressing and could possibly even be cut if you don't really need it. So let's just say I'm going to put it as like a medium for now. Because you are working as a group, you can put assignees. So if you do have other people in your workspace or in your project, you can add people here and assign them to, well, not add them, sorry, you can assign them this particular task and they'll be notified that this task is assigned to them. You can also create labels. So this is basically just for helping with search purposes. So you can search via labels to kind of find like everything that's related to that label. You basically create your own label. So for instance, for this one, I'd probably say like design, for instance, press enter, and that's just create like a design label there. You can give tasks their own start and due date as well. So that kind of adds more, sort of more time management purposes. You don't have to do them for every single task. You could have like maybe like the generic sort of milestone deadline and you know that this task is working towards that. It's entirely up to you if you want to put like a start or due date for them. And then you have cycles and modules, we'll talk about in a second, which is basically being like milestones equivalents. So I save this. So I've saved that. So now that you can see now that that has been added to the work items. So you see all the work items are here, and I have this task here now as well. If I click on it, you can see that I get all the details that I need. I can make adjustments and changes if I so wish. And also what you'll find as well is like if you click on a work item, you can also create something called a sub work item. So basically, maybe this task is too big. So maybe you want to break it down into manageable bite-sized tasks that all work in service to the main work item. So let's say if I add a subtask here, so create new, and I could put one, say, it's called iteration and feedback, for instance. So make improvements to the design based on feedback. And you'll see now that in this panel here, we've got a sub item, which is a Q1-2. So if I click on this, I can go straight to that child task, and you can see that it is actually a parent as well. So it's set as a parent to the other task as well. So you can see here now in the work items, the iteration and feedback has been added to this list, but you'll see now that on the parent one, there's like a little triangle here, like a little drop down menu. So if I click on this, it also shows this task here as well. So it's showing that, okay, this is a child of this task as well. So that really does help to kind of break down tasks into something more manageable and more bite-sized, especially for some people that might need that. Sometimes just the one task would be fine, but if you're struggling with a task, sometimes breaking it down into manageable, smaller tasks can really be useful as well. So here we have cycles. Now, cycles, since we're not working uh, like, since we're not working in a sprint mindset, like agile mindset, since we're working in milestones, the way that I want you to view this is that this is essentially your milestones. So these are the allotted times for a set amount of tasks that need to be complete. So essentially all the tasks relating to your goals need to be put here. So just to kind of show an example of that, so if I just press like set your first cycle, so let's just say this is, milestone one, uh, pre-production. So I can put a start date. So let's just say it's today up until 30th. So I'm gonna say like, say again, put a description. So tasks needed for, for pre-production. And then I'll just create that. So see now you can see how I have active cycles. That basically means, okay, that this is currently in the time frame of this cycle running. So basically think of it as your milestone. So basically this is the milestone that's currently running, since right now as the time of this recording is the 23rd. So this is the 23rd of April and it's running to the 30th. So this is currently in progress. So what I can do is I can click on this, and right now there is no work item. So basically any milestone that you're doing has to have tasks associated with it. So right now there's nothing in here, and what I can do is I can create a work item directly in here. So let's just say I can create one here, and I'll call this asset list creation, and I'll just put that as like I said to do, save that, and I have that now the in this cycle, in this milestone one. But I can also add existing ones as well. So right now, I can't really add them here, but what I can do is I go back to work items. So let's say I want this task added to that cycle. If I click on it, and there's option here for cycles, click on this, milestone pre-production one. And I'll see now that that has now been assigned to that particular cycle. I can also do it here as well. So it's already done it there because obviously it's a child, but I can also change it here as well. So if I go back to cycles, you'll see now that there are 2 pending tasks. So I can click on here and see what's being worked on. So let's just say this was complete. So I put that to done. If I go back to cycles, it keeps a track of like what has been complete. So it shows like, okay, one thing has been set to done, one thing is still in the backlog. So it kind of keeps like a visual track as to like how things are going. And you can add more cycles as well. You can have things that are upcoming or complete. So if you have like all your milestones set up, you can put like say a milestone 2, production example. So maybe you have like multiple milestones for production. So don't just have like the one, have like multiple ones. So might have like say this is example 1 and example 2, etc. And I can start adding things in here. So you can see here as well, because there's no work items, I can go to add existing and I can search for stuff and I can add things there as well. And here we have modules, and you can see like before there's any modules created, Plane does do a good job, like just adding in like a bit of a description as to what these are. So basically, modules are sort of like more smaller, focused elements of your project. It helps you organize your work items within, like, say, maybe a specific sort of like time frame, or specific sort of like goals or objectives, or maybe even a specific component. So you could potentially use modules as a way to do your milestones as well. I personally would probably use these to kind of organize all of your tasks in sort of different components. So you can say like you have like your art, um, audio, code, etc. So it's up to you how you want to create that. So let's just say, for example, if I create my first module, let's just say this was like say art, for instance. So all art tasks here. Now, similarly to cycles and even like work items, you can put a start and end date. So you could potentially use modules as a way to be your alternative to cycles and then be your milestones essentially, because what you can do is you can add tasks in here. So you can say you can put this in the backlog, so you can say like the whole module itself is planned, it's in progress, it's paused, it's complete, or it's cancelled. You can even put like say a lead, like say who's in charge of this module, so that way you can have ownership on it. So maybe like say one person's in charge of like this art module, one person can be in charge of the programming one. So they're the ones that are responsible to make sure that those tasks are completed on time. And also members as well, so you can say like who's a member of these particular sections. So if you have like larger groups, you could potentially have like members in like say the art modules or in the programming modules. So it's a really great way of just kind of organizing your projects. I personally like to use these for just differentiating between different components of a video game. So it'd be quite useful there as well. So let's just say here we can see modules. We have art here. So if I click on this, you see there's nothing in here. And similarly to the cycle section, I can add existing work items or I can create work items as well. So let's just say we got this as like weapon block out, for instance. I can just save that. I can see here now that if I click on this, it's part of the modules as well. So it can be added to multiple modules. Unlike, say, cycles, you can only do it by one cycle at a time. So I can't put this in two uh, cycles. It has to be in one or the other. So I can put this in, say, production, and then possibly I could add like this being part of another module. So maybe it's like a multi-discipline uh, task, which might go in both art and design as well. So maybe design how to set up like the programming side of this weapon, for instance. So but you'll notice if I go back to work items, what's the overview? We should be able to display by modules as well. So you can see here that if you go display, you can group all your work items by, say, priorities. You can see what's urgent, high, medium, or low. You can do it by cycles. So you can see like what's in production one, pre-production one, or example, etc. You can sort it by labels, or you can even sort them by modules as well. So you could have like, say, all your art modules here, and say you can see right now all these have none. So this is a good way of kind of like organizing your work items and visually displaying them in a way that works for you. So just before I finish, I will show an example of one that I've created earlier, just so you can see how it can be effective for you. So this is my example game project here, and I created this a while ago. So what you can see here is what I've done here are on the work items. I've displayed it via modules. So I've created a number of different modules. So I've got pre-production, I've got two pre-production for some reason. I got production one, I got, let's say, design, code, art, backlog, etc. So I can see here in the art one, I've added all the tasks that relate to the art section. I've also created stuff for code as well, so if I can put them all in there. I even create like a backlog section where there could just be like random stuff to add in there to be assigned or to be sorted out at a later date. And then say pre-production, so I've got like all the pre-production stuff here. So it's like, mood boards, character designs, research tasks and stuff. So you can see that I'm kind of like really kind of like trying to make sure that, it's organized as best as possible. And if I go to work items, you can see because I've displayed it by modules, you can see now that, everything's kind of like organized in a way that kind of works for me. But I could always change it, for example, like to say cycles, for instance, so I can see like what's going on for my milestones as well. So I go to say cycles, if I go to say pre-production here, you can see that I have like our asset list added there. Can go back to say sprint one, which is like a milestone, for instance. You can see that, I've got everything that's kind of related to this specific um, cycle as well. So these are all the tasks that I needed to get complete by the 13th of March. So hopefully this shows like how it can be effective and useful for you. So just come up with a process and like a system that works for your team. Just make sure that you're utilizing work items, cycles, and modules in an effective way that makes sense to not just to you but also to the rest of your team as well.